One of the toughest watches available is the Victorinox Inox Professional Divers Watch in titanium. Stay tuned to find out more. Now this is one really good looking watch with the grey of the titanium case contrasting really nicely with the black dial and the black strap. But this is more than just a good looking watch. It's an ISO 6425 certified diver's watch, which means that it has to comply with the minimum criteria to allow it to be called a diver's watch. So what criteria does this diver's watch have to comply with? Firstly, it has to be able to submerge to a depth of at least 100 meters. This watch is capable of 200 meters. It needs to be able to withstand electromagnetic interference. It needs a counter-rotating bezel with a time resolution of at least 1 minute intervals over at least 60 minutes. The dial indicators on the watch face, the bezel and the hands must be able to be read in total darkness for at least 60 minutes from a distance of 25 centimeters. It has to have shock resistance. It has to have chemical and corrosion resistance. It has to have certified strap or band strength. And it needs an end-of-life indicator. This watch passes those tests plus a whole lot more that Victorinox have thrown at it. It's a rugged, good-looking and reliable watch. But before I show you this watch in depth and all the accessories it comes with, I want to talk about one item, the rotating bezel. One of my clients recently purchased one of these watches and he wasn't familiar with the rotating bezel. He didn't understand quite why it only went one way and not the other and what was the point of it. In very simple terms, it's just a really, really simple timer. If you think of this watch being designed for divers in particular, they need a simple timer that they can see at a glance. They don't necessarily want all the digital stuff that goes on, primarily because they're underwater. It's going to be hard to see, and they want to be able to see with the luminous dial all the information they need. The primary information they need is how long they've been underwater. Typically divers are underwater for no more than 60 minutes, but usually no more than 40 minutes. So the rotating bezel is a very, very simple timer. You can actually use this sort of a timer for all sorts of things. I use it for cooking, for example, to time things. I use it when I park my car so I know how long I parked my car. It's just one of those really, really simple things that a lot of people don't realize that they have on their wrist. So how does it work? Really simply, you just line up the 0 point with where the minute hand is when you want to start your timing, like if you're about to jump off a boat to dive, or you're about to start cooking, or you've just left your car in a car park. And all that happens is the minute hand keeps progressing, and every time you look at the watch, the minute hand will be pointing obviously to the actual time, but it's also pointing to the bezel. And it's pointing to the bezel and it's indicating how many minutes since you set the bezel to the 0 point. So if you're diving, you want to know how many minutes you've been underwater so you know when you need to start ascending so you don't run out of air. And this is where the safety part comes in. The bezel can only rotate one way, can't rotate the other way. And that's the safety feature. If you accidentally knock the bezel and put it in a different position while you're timing, then it's only ever going to show a worse case than you're actually experiencing. So if you're underwater, for example, for 15 minutes and you accidentally knock the dial and it's indicating 20 minutes, it's better that than going the other way and only indicating 10 minutes, giving you a false sense of security and a false sense of timing. So that's where this one rotating direction or mono-rotating or uni-rotating direction comes into play. So the dials are always very hard to rotate as well. That's just part of the function of the safety, if you like. So they're very stiff. They don't easily rotate. So that's the rotating bezel. It's a really great feature on these type of watches. They're on all divers' watches and quite a lot of other watches. So let's look at how you actually get this watch. It'll come to you in a really nice case. There's an extra strap. The standard strap is a paracord. It's a combination of paracord and ballistic nylon strap. It's designed to fit on the outside of a wetsuit and grip the wetsuit so it doesn't rotate around your wrist. It'll always stay there. It also comes with a rubber strap, a matching rubber strap. In this case, it's a black strap, and it also has this unique silicone bumper, which is a magnifier. Typically, you're going to use that if you're ever doing any rough work and you don't want to scratch your watch, but it also acts as a magnifier. This is my watch, and I obviously sell these, but I found that I thought at first that paracord arrangement would be a bit uncomfortable. That's what it looks like underneath. Those little white bits are where it's been melted to stop it from unraveling. But I thought at first that actually might be quite uncomfortable. But I've actually found it to be one of the most comfortable straps I've ever had. I was also a bit worried. I do have quite hairy arms, and I was a bit worried that was going to start ripping the hairs out of my arms. But it's not done anything of the sort. It's actually just been one of the most comfortable straps that I've ever had. I've also found that because of all of those bumps on the in that cord, all those windings in the cord, that it actually breathes really nicely. So I don't have a problem with sweat building up and getting irritated, because I'm the sort of person that has very sensitive skin, and that's an issue for me. The other thing about the watch and its skin irritation is that is titanium on the back and on obviously the case, but the back's the important part. And that is important because I've got very sensitive skin, and if you're a person who's got very sensitive skin, you might want to be buying something like a titanium watch rather than a stainless watch, because when you get hot and sweaty, the sweat is a bit acidic, it's salty, and it reacts with stainless steel. And the nickel in the stainless steel comes out and can react with your skin. If you've got sensitive skin like me, you can end up with a bit of a rash or a bit of irritation. The great thing about titanium is it's inert and it's not going to be affected by your sweat or heat. And the combination of that strap in particular is going to allow your skin to breathe really nicely. It'll also wick away some of the moisture from your skin. So it's a really great strap. I really sort of learned to love that strap, when at first I was a little bit skeptical about it. Let's look at some of the specifications of this watch. The watch diameter is 45 millimeters. That's the overall dimension on the case, and it's 50 millimeters if you include the crown. This watch has a screw down crown, which is really essential when you've got a diver's watch or a watch that's going to get wet. The way that the screw down crown works, and this is essential for maintaining waterproofness of the watch. You need to maintain this. You also need to get these watches serviced every few years. Usually when you change the battery, you'd want them to change the seal on the crown for that reason as well. But the most important thing here is to make sure that you don't cross thread the crown when you're screwing it in. It's only a tiny thread on the case and on the crown, and it's very, very easy to cross thread these. And once you've done that, you effectively have no watertight seal. So the easiest way and the safest way to push the crown in and to screw it down is not to screw it in the clockwise direction to start with, which is the way that you would lock it down, but rather use your thumb, press lightly on the crown, and rotate it counterclockwise. So this is going in the opposite direction to locking it down. Now what you're going to find is that when the threads overlap and they pass one another, the crown will then drop in place or push in place. It's spring loaded, so it'll push in place because you've got the load on your thumb. That tells you that you can now start to wind or to lock that crown down. So then with your thumb, just gently go clockwise until you've caught the thread. Then you can remove your thumb from the end of the crown and just tighten normally. And you just want to give it a firm tightness. Now this is also a really important thing, that this can come a little bit loose with time. So if you're going in the water, it's always a good thing to just check the tightness of the crown. And this is not just for this watch, this is for any watch that pretends doesn't pretend to be, but for any watch that is waterproof. Now this watch is quite light because it's a titanium watch. It's 126 grams all up. The equivalent stainless steel version is 145 grams. So Victorinox do an equivalent watch, which is in stainless, and it comes with a paracord and all the extra bits as well. But it is a stainless steel and it's heavy. It's noticeably heavier when you're holding it in your hands. It's got an analog quartz movement. The glass is sapphire, so it's scratch resistant. It's also coated, so it's got a low reflectivity on it. And there's also a standard end of life indicator. A lot of these things are actually a requirement to meet the standard, the ISO standard that I would have mentioned earlier, which is ISO 6425. These are all just requirements. Everything I've just mentioned, which this watch complies with, are requirements to be called a diver's watch. So this watch is waterproof to 200 meters. It's got the analog quartz movement. That's not a requirement as long as it's accurate to within a minute a day, if it's whichever, whether it's a quartz movement or a automatic mechanical movement. Quartz watches are usually accurate to within a second or two a day, so that's not an issue. It's got 24-hour military markings on the face, which is good for places like Europe. It has a very simple date function, just showing the date quite simply. And also it has an end-of-life battery indicator, which is also mandatory for a diver's watch. So when you've got about 30 days of power left, the second hand will start to move 4 seconds at a time. So it's not going to do that in a second. It's going to wait 4 seconds and then it'll move 4 seconds and it'll still keep time, but it's just that the second hand is moving 4 seconds at a time, and that's your end-of-life indicator. When that starts, you've got 30 days or you've got a month thereabouts before your watch is going to run out of battery. Now, that's it for me about this watch, and if you've liked this video, please like it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon if you'd like to see more videos like this from us, and please share this video with your friends. I'm Andrew from Forman Design. Thanks for watching.